So let's talk about the first 2 weeks of the period. So this is weeks 1 and 2. Now, first of all, I know that usually most of you are doing exams in the first week. So normally the first week is a little bit of a write-off. But the first 2 weeks will be focused on HTML. And I should point out this is an introductory level programming course. So if you do have skills in web programming, just let me know and I can perhaps give you some advanced material to play with. But essentially it is a course that's designed for people who have not had any web programming experience, but we do expect you to have some programming experience in other languages. So the first week is very much focused on HTML, and by the end of the first 2 weeks you should be able to recognize HTML5 elements such as semantic elements and the importance, especially for search engines, of having a correctly structured website, and something that can be read by a search engine, and it does not necessarily at this stage need to look pretty. The other thing we'll be doing is we'll be setting you up on the core teaching servers at RMIT. So we have 3 of them and they are mirrored servers. So any work you do on one is actually repeated on the other 2. So if one should go down for any reason, the other 2 should still be up. Although I'll be honest with you, sometimes the reason why they go down is because students do stupid things and they'll go on to the next one and the next one, and then all 3 will be down. There's not too much we can do about that, but that's the way it rolls. Don't stress too much. The core teaching will be, if you like, the production server. So this will be the server that the client, imaginary client, looks at. And so most of the work will either be done on your machine, or if you really want to, you can develop on core teaching. But just be aware that it is a remote machine and might not be 100% reliable. So the other thing we're doing is we'd like you to set yourself up on Github. And Github is basically, how do I describe it to those who don't know? It's a repository that not only stores a backup of your code, but every time you do a commit, it actually saves your entire project as a snapshot. So you can come back to any of those snapshots and retrieve the project as it was at that stage. And the other thing is you don't need to retrieve the whole thing. You can actually just look around and find, let's just say, for example, you wrote some code, but maybe a month ago you accidentally deleted it. You can actually go back and find that code, copy it and paste it into your current version. So it's very useful. It has revolutionized the way software engineering is done, and it's very good for collaborative projects as well. So we'll be setting you up with that. We won't be expecting too much of you. There will be times where you'll have to sort of merge files. There may be a little bit of a conflict between changes you made on your laptop and changes you made on your desktop, but essentially it should be a fairly smooth process. We're not expecting you to do too much, but there will be little bumps in the road. I will just warn you now. So the advantages, first advantage I just told you, if there are any problems with your code, down the track, you can go back and have a look at any stage. The other advantage is we can actually have a look at your code and the way you've been developing, and see if there's any sort of systemic problems in your code. So we can see that you're consistently doing something wrong. So we can sort of go back and say, do you see how in your code in February you were doing this? Well, you need to stop doing that. And it gives us more of an idea of how you got the code, how you got to that position when we're looking at your final stage. So that's the first 2 weeks, And by the end of the first 2 weeks, as I said, you should have a web page that doesn't necessarily look good, but it will be indexable by a search engine such as Google or Bing, or I'm not sure if there are any other search engines, maybe DuckDuckGo. And you know, it'll be solid, so to speak. And then we'll be moving on to the next stage, which is CSS and also the human-computer interface, which is more about the style and design of your website. So I'm going to keep walking, and I'll talk more about that in a moment.